Welcome to We Interrupt This broadcast. It's your monthly roundup of everything that's happening in the Australian screen industry. I'm Julie Eckersley.
And I'm Kirsty Stark. And between us, we've been involved in hundreds of hours of screen stories, myself as a crew member and producer.
And me as a commissioner, producer, and actress. We're here to bring the industry together, spark a conversation, and keep you up to date.
So make sure to subscribe and follow us at We Interrupt Podcast on Instagram to join our weekly conversation.
Let's get into it.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, Kirsty.
Welcome to another episode of We Interrupt This broadcast. It's our June monthly roundup.
That's right. And we're going to start this podcast by mentioning the elephant in the room, or should I say the short film in the room. We've been loving that the podcast has been sparking some great conversation in the industry, haven't we, Kirsty?
Yeah, this month especially, we've seen a lot of comments come through on our Instagram and LinkedIn. So follow us on those platforms if you're not already, really getting into the detail on some of these issues we're facing as an industry. On the short film front, that was really around what level are we talking about budget-wise when we discuss low budget versus micro budget.
Some of the comments were really great about people's concern about the safety on micro budget feature films. And I think one of the things around that is that you can't come into a micro-budget feature film with the expectation that it's going to be shot in the same way with a crew of 30. That just doesn't work. If you look at the deep dive we did recently with Melanie from Lilydale Films and flunk.com.au, I mean, they shoot with a crew of 3, and doing that, they are able to make feature films for $10,000. It's not a model that suits everyone. You've also, in South Australia, you've had some pretty successful low-budget features.
Yeah, there's the SAFC's New Voices initiative, which is done in conjunction with Screen Australia and the Adelaide Film Festival. And those projects are done in the $650,000 to $700,000 space. They're specifically designed for that budget level. They go through a development process where it's about how we're going to tell a story within this context, what does our crew structure look like, and ensuring that all of those safety measures are in place. And I think it really depends on what those structures are and those business models that you're setting up for the shoot. There is no one size fits all, but safety ultimately does need to come first.
Of course.
And then a very clear stance from a lot of people about the value that short films had offered to their careers and their career pathways and how we need to keep those going.
I'm certainly, and I know you are too, for any opportunity that helps people move through and advance their career. And one of the things that I was thinking through with short films is that it can't be approached as a standalone next step. We do in the past have really great examples of people like, Emma Freeman at Tropfest and Glendon Ivan, who had incredible success with their short films, but they also were then able to come into a system like Emma went into Offspring, and Glendon had been doing all this amazing work in advertising. My concern is more that people put all their eggs in doing a short film. You can spend a year trying to get into a festival, which may or may not happen, and that in this day and age, I don't think that is a sustainable career path.
So since we spoke last month, Screen Australia has held a couple of webinars. Louise Goff did one on the narrative side and Richard Huddleston did one on the documentary side. There is a lot more clarity of where this particular short film funding fits into those pathways. And it looks like it really is about elevating people who have that first step to go on and make that substantial short film that will be aimed at a premium festival release that will then give them the opportunity to move forward in the feature film space or go on to write, direct, produce premium content and be part of that long form strategy.
And that really makes sense that Screen Australia are doing some significant work here to try and really support that auteur voice in that premium space. You don't get your first go through this particular initiative.
No, and that's also clear in the guidelines. The director will need to have directed either a short narrative film that has been at a competitive film festival in the past, or on an equivalency level produced 2 theatre shows for audiences, or a number of episodes online with a minimum view count, which is yet to be outlined. So you still need to go through that process of greenlighting yourself, creating your own opportunities, getting your voice out into the world.
It's about making sure that when you're seeing that opportunity for a short film, you're not seeing that as the thing that will change your career. You're going, okay, how am I greenlighting myself? How am I building a substantial pathway? How am I practicing my craft rigorously? And the incredible thing is, in terms of what we talk about in greenlighting yourself, is you can do that now more than ever. While this is an incredible opportunity, it's just about making sure you've got a bigger strategy for yourself. Use these pathways as they come up. They can be awesome escalators, but also you need to be a self-starter, which, Kirsty, is nothing new in our industry, right? You've always had to be a self-starter.
Not at all. I mean, I remember one of the first books that inspired me as a high schooler looking to get into film was Robert Rodriguez's book, Rebel Without a Crew. He went out, got funding through doing medical trials, putting his body on the line, and went and shot this 16mm feature with a bunch of friends, which was El Mariachi, that went on to have festival success and led to his Hollywood career. There's always been the need to stand out, take whatever opportunities are available and figure out what your own pathway is going to be. But it's fantastic to see that there is now that next step or that premium short film opportunity available at Screen Australia.
And for those who didn't have a chance to attend those webinars with Louise and Richard, we'll make sure that they're in the show notes. They're really great sources of information. And of course, all eyes on July 1 when we'll get all of the guidelines downloaded as well. So there'll be a lot more information coming on this.
What else have you been up to this month, Julie?
Screenwell have been continuing their understanding of the mental health issues in the industry and building a strategy to help us address that, particularly on the production side of it. Really looking first and foremost at crews and shooting and how we can really look after our shooting crews better in terms of mental health. Both you and I were part of roundtables, and another element that's really been strong in terms of mental health this week is creative workplaces have now released their platform. So it's a website that has a whole lot of resources for creative people, a part of the government's Revive policy. And it really is about the government saying they're committed to fair and safe workplaces for creative people and offering up some resources to help us maintain that within our industry.
Yeah, it's a fantastic website. Creative Workplaces is really about creating fair, safe and respectful workplaces for artists, including screen organisations across Australia. And there's fantastic info in there, everything from starting and running a creative business, managing hazards and risks, all the way through to how you manage a career as an artist. So definitely take a look at that if you're building a career in the screen industry, either as a production company or as a freelancer. So on the AI front, there's been some big news this month. The launch of Google's Veo 3. The big change is that you can now, with a single written prompt, include dialogue, sound effects, music, and moving images, all with one prompt.
This is an absolute game changer, and we're going to put some links in so you can have a look at what's actually happening here. There was a really fun one that Clayton Jacobson put together. Did you see that one?
Yeah, the perfume ad. Very funny.
It's a slightly improved version of Clayton selling us perfume. Look, it's confronting, but it's also like we can't look away because this is going to have such a considerable impact on our industry.
Yeah, my feed has been flooded in both LinkedIn and Facebook with people trying out the technology. There's a lot of very realistic looking videos that, a lot of people I know from outside the industry wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the AI generated video and just people doing vox pops on the street. I did read an article which was really interesting, and it was about how the industry seems so far behind on the way we're thinking about what AI will do. So it's not just the impact on people's careers and crew roles, but it's the impact on story itself and how they see a future where it won't just be people relying on the industry to come up with premium stories. They'll be entering, hey, make a video where I want to see X, Y, and Z and this plot point, and it will spit out a full AI-generated movie for them. Obviously, subpar storytelling and narrative quality, but if it speaks directly to your niche interests, then that is something that you may choose to watch over a less relevant, beautifully formed piece of work.
Yeah, that feeds into this conversation about quality, right? That one of the things that YouTube has shown us that, audiences don't necessarily care about beautiful craft all the time, but relatability, niche, niche, all those kinds of things. I can really see it serving there. One of the things that we're wanting to do is to keep empowering you, keep giving you information. So we've done a deep dive interview with Jessie Hughes that'll be coming out next week. So Jessie Hughes is from Leonardo AI. And alongside that, Scott Dixon, who's from Bold Digital Media, who's really forward thinking about our industry and AI, he has put together a special cheat sheet that we're going to put in the show notes with Jessie's episode. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're like, I don't even know where to start, this cheat sheet from Scott is going to really help you with that.
The reality is these tools are here, they're coming. We need to make our own decisions as artists and as an industry as to how we want to engage with them. But the more informed we are, the better we'll be able to make those choices. So if you're not already subscribed on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or you can sign up to our mailing list at weinterruptthisbroadcast.com.au, you'll get that episode next week in your inbox along with the information and the cheat sheet from Scott.
And in the midst of this podcast, a little bit of self-promotion. Thanks so much to everyone who's been liking, supporting, following. We thought we'd let you know that we're now looking at sponsorship opportunities.
Yeah, with our sponsorship, we really want to build relationships with organisations that are aligned with us and really looking to the future of the Australian industry.
So if you think that could be aligned with your business, please reach out to us.
Other interesting pieces of news to share from overseas. One thing I noted was that Mr. Beast on YouTube has now hit 400 million subscribers, which is a large number. 5% of the world's population is now following one channel on YouTube. And just to compare that, Netflix has 380 million global subscribers. So obviously that's a paid platform as opposed to a free hit subscribe button, but just goes to show the power of YouTube and what some of their more powerful creators are doing.
Absolute power of YouTube. Unbelievable. And what about Mountainhead? How interesting was that process?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. It's on HBO, but I think the fascinating thing here is about the production process and how quickly they turned around a feature film. So it was pitched in December 2024. The script was written in January. They had a 5-week shoot across March and April, and then it was released on May 22nd. It kind of speaks to the way that the online production process and fast releases and content being available all at once is now informing the feature film space. The subject matter of the show, it's about 4 tech bros who are in a mountain retreat watching the world burn down around them. And it really speaks to exactly what's going on in the world at the moment. So its relevancy meant that the production process needed to reflect that.
And this is one of the things I'm loving about the new media age, to be honest, Kirsty. I'm loving the flexibility of thinking. You know, it doesn't always have to be one way. It doesn't always have to be one budget. Being able to scale up, scale down, move fast when it's needed, move slow when it's needed. Like that is the flexibility of thinking that is going to help us to thrive moving forward.
Technology and creativity are now intersecting at a rate where we are going to see more and more fast-paced production. It's still going to be important to have longer form, slow burn, carefully thought through content that reflects on what we've seen in the past as opposed to being in the moment. But it's nice that there's a crossover more and more between the two.
Other bits of news, Screenwest has upped their PDV rebate to a flat 20% on all qualifying expenditure, continuing the awesome things they're doing over in Western Australia. So impressed, and the studios obviously are coming together there, so very exciting time for the West. And Stan, who I neglected to mention, has also been 10 years now in Australia, have just signed a big deal with Sony, which is great. We love to see Stan growing and healthy in the industry. They are such an important part of keeping us sustainable. And also they're going to be presenting at Content London, which is in November in 2025, about the path ahead. So it'll be exciting to see what they say then.
Yeah, and as we speak, Ausfilm is leading an international animation contingent at Annecy. So it's really great to see so many Australian animation companies doing really well in the international space at the moment. And I've got friends over there having a fantastic time on the ground as part of that contingent.
From Bluey to Memoir of a Snail to Lesbian Space Princess, it feels like Australia is in a really good place with animation right now.
What have you been watching this month, Julie?
The Survivors is just out from Tony Ayres and was number 2 on Netflix in Australia over the weekend, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. It's a really beautiful show. I had read the book a few years ago and it was nice to see it come to life. It was a really drama-based production, not just a crime show. And I loved the beautiful performances from the cast, real intimate moments between characters, which I loved.
And bring her back. I'm such a scaredy cat with horror, but it's doing really well at the box office.
Yeah, so opening weekend was 827,000, which is the biggest opening for an Australian film this year. And they made 7 million in the US on opening weekend as well. Fantastic to see an Australian film having big international impact.
Other things I've been watching is that fantastic series Hacks, which I absolutely love. Have you watched that?
I haven't, no. Another film that I loved seeing again, I was able to go to the 50th anniversary screening of Sunday Too Far Away that the South Australian Film Corporation put on. It was the first feature that the SAFC ever produced, and it was also, I believe, the first Australian film to go to Cannes. They had actor Jack Thompson and producer Matt Carroll doing a Q&A, and to connect that very early history of South Australian feature films with what we're doing today, with those people in the room talking about their experiences and the fantastic memories they had from the shoot, was just wonderful. Felt like a part of history. It was really beautiful to be there.
What is in production at the moment around Australia, Kirsty?
So we have Tenzing, which is Jennifer Peetham's first narrative feature, shooting in Nepal at the moment. That's an Apple original produced by Seesaw Films. The Stan comedy Gnomes is shooting. And we also have the Play Dead feature film at Docklands. This is a World War II drama, and they're really maximising the use of the LED stages at Nant Studios, so being able to play out those backgrounds in camera.
I was down at Docklands the other day, actually, and talking to someone who'd been seeing what they were doing with those screens and Play Dead and felt that they were really being utilised very powerfully within that project. So it'll be exciting to see what comes from that.
Yeah, it's so good to see the advances in technology and how those walls are being used now. I even saw a behind-the-scenes clip from The Survivors that Tony Ayres posted about the SimTrav shots that were all done against LED screens as well in studio. I honestly hadn't picked it watching the show, so yeah, really beautiful results.
Wow. I mean, this is part of the new crafts that we're learning, right? We've got new technologies at our fingertips, and it's just going to keep opening up new opportunities for how we tell our stories.
There's a few big industry events coming up in the next month or so, Julie.
Yeah, really exciting ones. Well, this week, Regional to Global from Screenworks, which both you and I will be at. They are amazing Screenworks. If anyone doesn't know them, particularly if you live in a regional area, go and check out what they do. And they have now this annual conference where they bring in the most incredible people. They bring it to the regions, and it's a really empowering conference. So super exciting to be there. We're presenting on a bunch of different things, including presenting together about the future of the industry. And the other big announcement that was exciting this month is the Future Visions Summit coming back in July for the second year. Peter Ritchie at AIF and Bruna Papandreou and Tony Ayres really behind that. Unbelievable, the lineup of talent that they've got. So they've got Sally Wainwright, who is the creator of Happy Valley, unbelievable talent, Richard Gadd from Baby Reindeer, and Sue Hugh from Pachinko, amazing. So again, we'll put a link to that. The first day is open to anyone, either online or in person. Day 2 and 3 are invitation only to either producer creatives, or day 3 just for writers. But a really great program to be aware of.
There seem to be more and more initiatives bringing our industry together and giving people the opportunity to talk about the future. And this is really focused on that premium content space and how we compete as a nation with other industries internationally. So really looking forward to see not just the conversations that come out of it, but what are the relationships that are built and what that leads to in terms of the next Australian shows that get off the ground. Another great online opportunity is the AFTRS Digital Futures Summit. So that's on June 26th and it's free to attend. They've got a couple of great sessions there. A session about the next disruption of media with Doug Chapereau. There's a Producing 2030 session about the skills and business models that producers will need to develop or hone to thrive in the future. And then Lynette Walworth is doing the closing keynote address as well.
Before we finish up today, we just want to acknowledge Liz Tomkins, who sadly passed away in a car accident at the end of May. She was the former chair of Women in Film and Television and was really a visionary who had a great impact on supporting women in the industry.
Yeah, I was so sad to hear this news. I was just talking to Liz at Screen Forever about all the plans she had after finishing up her term at WIFT. To know that she's not going to be able to carry those out just is devastating. So love to all of Liz's family and friends and those who knew her in the industry. She'll be remembered for a long time for her impact.
She's an incredible loss to the industry.
Well, that's it for June. I will see you tomorrow at Regional to Global, Julie.
See you there. Thanks again for joining us.
Now back to your regular programming.
We Interrupt This broadcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation and the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, and we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and first storytellers of these regions. Always was, always will be.